Hey everybody, James here, and I wanted to talk about the delivery of localized versions of Wonderland's War and why they are behind where the retail partners got their games. Getting lots of angry messages. I totally understand that. So first, I want to start with, I'm really sorry that this has happened. It definitely wasn't my intention. I think any publisher in this situation knows the ramifications of what will happen when people that back a Kickstarter don't get their game before they see it on a store shelf, and I know that, and so there's been a lot of name calling that I've been called, which sucks because at the end of the day, I really just wanted to provide copies of the game in languages that people were requesting. And so, but at the end of the day, it's up to me to manage my partners that help me pull this off. And I didn't do a good enough job of that, or we wouldn't be having this conversation if I had done a better job. So, I think first and foremost, I just gotta look you in the eye and say this is on me. This is my bad, and it's my fault. So, you know, I'm going to expound on how and why and things in the rest of this video. But if you've already decided that you're mad and that I'm a trash person because this has happened, then you may not want to waste your next 15 minutes listening to the reasons and the explanations. But if you care, I guess, a little bit about why these things can happen, then I'm going to go into some of that. And so, I think first of all, I should explain how localization typically works. There's obviously, just like with anything else in business, there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. But for the majority of us English speaking American type companies that partner with other people to do localizations, we aren't able to localize the games ourselves. So then we enlist partners. So typically, so the way it works with me, right, is I'm partnered with Lucky Duck Games. Lucky Duck Games is like my broker, right? They have a network. They have a team that actually works with publishers in each of the regions that could potentially localize a game. So in our case, Spanish, Italian, Polish, German, French, and they reach out to those publishers and they say, "Hey, we're putting together a print run localizing this game, in this case Wonderland's War. Would you be interested in taking on an MOQ, a minimum order quantity, to produce this in your language?" Right? Then they get all the numbers, they run their numbers, they see what it sells for, blah blah blah, they run their math, and then they make a decision. Do they think they want to carry that game? If they do, then they are responsible for translating it because they speak that language, and that's their home. It's kind of like their home field, right? So from my end, when these partners sign on, it's kind of out of my hands at that point. I mean, it's still my game, right? I could still tell them no, I don't want to work with that partner. But for the most part, like if we don't have other offers from any other publisher within that region, I have to make the decision of, do I want to work with this partner, so that the game is offered in that language. And so that kind of happens. They all come together. We have to do this at the same time because what happens is when we go to the manufacturer, we get a discount for bulk, right? That happens with bulk orders. And so if, let's say, the German partner just only was the only person who signed up, and they only wanted 1,500 units of the game, that'd be astronomically high, right? Because that's nowhere near a good MOQ. So what we're able to do is you're able to take all the different regions, combine them, and say, okay, now we have 10,000 units that we're printing. So then they all get a better price, which makes them all very happy, right? It makes them want to do business and makes the math work. So it all gets done at the same time. Well, then, sometimes what that means is if one of the translations is taking quite a bit longer than one of the others, it holds up everything else because it all has to be printed at the same time. Short story long, that's generally how this works. Then everything is milled or shipped to the individual partners within those regions, and then they disperse however they so choose. And that's where you're seeing things getting into retail. And I've seen people say, "Well, you said this game would never be in retail," and you know what? I should have been more clear that was specifically for English. That's my thing, right? That's what I can control, and it's not, right. Like we are not working with distro. You won't see it in retail. The only other place that you have seen it was on the Game Steward, and that's because I had a contract with them from in the before times. I'm not even sure I'm going to be doing those going forward in the future on like Mad Kala that's coming up. You know, it'll be the same as Wonderland's War. You'll have to get it through our web store. I do have a new partner that we've talked about, but I can talk about it here. We're partnering with AllPlay, who used to be BoardGameTables.com, but AllPlay is amazing. Joe Wiggins came over from Panda Manufacturing and helps run AllPlay now, and they have an incredible setup. They're going to be phenomenal fulfillment partners for us because our last partner really failed us in a lot of different ways. And so when these mistakes happen, I think there's a couple of things that companies can do, because I think people think that I definitely think people react like companies when a mistake or an issue happens that they're doing it maliciously. At least that's the tone in some of the attacks that are put online. And I don't think that's the case 99% of the time. Now, if they make a mistake and the next campaign they make the same mistake, maybe again they're not being malicious, but at that point, the ignorance or the negligence, whichever category you think that falls into, becomes kind of malicious in that it's not being addressed. So in my case, the two things that I'm trying to correct from this scenario, one is the localization process and partnerships, and then two, the fulfillment, because the fulfillment's what ended up causing the delay in why the shipment of games for the backers didn't beat the shipment for retail. And so, on my end, I just want to, if you don't watch this whole video, I want to make sure I am working on it. And so, like in the future, I'm not going to be offering localized versions during campaigns anymore. This is the first time I tried it with this campaign, and as you can see, it's only made people mad. Now, does that mean that we'll get the same? You'll be able to get it in Spanish and some of these other, the languages in the future? I don't know with future games. I don't know, because it all really boils down to, do the partners want to partner with us? Do they feel like they can sell those games in their region? And when it's around a Kickstarter, it obviously has more attention. It's hotter. That's why you get more people to sign up. So undoubtedly, going away from this model, I will have less people sign up. But honestly, if I can't deliver and I can't trust my partners to help me deliver the right experience for the Kickstarter backers, then I'm not doing it. And so, this is kind of a fool me once, and I'm out. I'm just not doing it this way anymore. So you don't have to, if you're pumping your fist, I'm never backing you again. You got to do what's right for you, right? Like, and again, I apologize, and this is on me. It's my bad. I should have managed these partners better. But you don't have to worry about this being an issue in the future, because when I only print English versions and it's under just my flag, then I have complete control of when things go out. And I did, right? Like, I actually sat on my stock. I had stock for the web store well in advance of all of the Kickstarter backers in English getting their games. And I held it off. We didn't start selling it because that's just not, I don't feel like that's right. And, I don't want to throw partners and things under the bus, but let's just say I asked that people hold off on launching things, and I was ignored. So when it comes to the other partners that I don't have full control over, and it's really not their fault. They had the product, they need to sell it, because warehousing space costs money. it really just, the biggest delay that caused it was a 2 or 3 perfect storm situation where we were butting up against Lunar New Year. We had the bag issue, which we were able to fix for all of the localized versions. They have a different version of the bag, so those are updated in your new copy. You won't have to worry about the bags fraying and having holes in them. And then it was the communication, and so a lot of times for us, a domino can't fall until the previous domino falls. I don't have the right. I'm not doing this right. But right, the each domino falls, and that's kind of what has to happen. And in our case, we were waiting for information because getting games out of the manufacturer, when you're shipping it to regions that have the Kickstarter backers, there's lots of SKUs, there's lots of different combinations of those SKUs, and so you have to make sure you have the right amount to fulfill for each of the regions, which takes time, and there's back and forth between partners. Like, you're looking at this data, I see the data like this, do you confirm? So there's back and forth. To ship the stuff to the retail partners was like, they need 2,000 of these games. They're on the pallets, they're ready to go. So our manufacturer's like, hey, we need our warehouse space because these are big games and they take up a lot of space, and we make more games and more products than just for you. When things are ready, we need to put them on ocean freighters and containers and get them out the door. And so when there was a delay with aligning all of the SKUs and having the breakdown built like it needed to be for each of the regions for the backers shipments, it ended up not going out before Lunar New Year, whereas the retail shipments did. So that's a 4 to 5 week delay, and then there's usually a good bit of build up at ports once Lunar New Year is over, because lots of people now have stuff that needs to ship that hasn't shipped. So it ends up causing, sometimes a 2-month delay, but I would say on average probably 6 weeks. And so for the most part, our shipments and our delivery and fulfillment of the localized versions are going to be 6 to 8 weeks behind. Now I'm working with my fulfillment partner to try to speed that along best I can, but stuff hitting port, getting through customs, getting to the fulfillment centers, there's some of the stuff we don't have any control over with the governments and their procedures, but they are on the way. As I said in the previous update, end of April, which is end of April. Some of them are getting close to their port arrival date. Some are going to be like the first week of May, because there's still delays. Like, you're like, hey, our estimated arrive date was 4/26. April 26th. I know we have the weird calendar allotment here in the U.S. April 26th. And they're like, your new updated arrival date's May 6th. And so you're like, we lost 10 days or whatever. And you don't get an explanation. They just tell you, hey, the boat got delayed. So, we're working through that, and we're going to get you your games. And so, like I was saying before, like, it really is the combination of those 3 things, and then not hitting and getting the stuff out before Lunar New Year hit, when you're going to have downtime. So, that's why you're seeing the games available through those partners. Now, they're all very small print runs, so once they're out, they won't have any more, because they have to come back and ask for permission to reprint and get more another print run going. So it is still somewhat limited in each of those languages. Not that really matters to what we're talking about today, but just so you know. Let's see. Is there anything else that's important about that? I did make some notes, because I start to ramble when I get on these. But I think the biggest thing to take away is, like, you're free to feel upset with me, and you're free to feel upset that, other people who didn't back the Kickstarter have their games before you did. Again, it was my job to manage these partners. I should have pushed harder to make sure that the games got out before Lunar New Year. And I didn't. I didn't do a good enough job of that. So, I think something that I hope you can empathize with is that, at this time that I was doing this, it was just me. Right now we got Maddie, so it's just still a 2-person company. But when all this stuff was happening, it was just me, so it's just one person. And, I don't have the resources of big companies like Amazon and stuff. So, bandwidth demands, being sick. I had, 2 surgeries last year. It all does affect things. You're like, oh, he's just making excuses. No, it's not. I mean, they are. And however you want to view them, explanations, excuses. But some of it is just, we are humans and we do have limitations. And we do make mistakes. And I'm just going to chalk this whole thing up as a mistake I allowed to happen. So, like I said, going forward, I'm my way that I'm going to try not allow this to happen again is I'm not going to offer localized versions, and I'm switching to a new fulfillment partner that can execute fulfillment better. Because even when we're not talking about the localized versions, the partner that we chose for this past campaign didn't live up to what they sold us on. And that's a frustrating thing, and it happens a lot in business, right? You meet with a partner, they tell you their capabilities. You go, hey, that sounds great. Here's the pricing. Hey, that works with my budget. So what you're telling me you can do and that you've shown when I ask other people or when you give me people that you've worked with, we've done as much, credibility checks as we can. Looks like everything's good. Then what they do doesn't match what they say they were going to do when it comes to execution. The frustrating part is they still charge the same amount of money. So we got less service for the same costs, which is really frustrating when you're the one paying the bill. But we've changed that partner as well. And, All Play has shown me through the different partners that they have that they're really set up to execute this really well. And obviously they're small business owners like me. And they really have a hyper focus on helping their partners be successful, which is a vibe that I'm all about. So, at the end of the day, it is my responsibility to choose good partners that help execute things the way they're supposed to be executed. And it just didn't happen, for these localized versions. And then even in the English execution, there were failures in some of the regions and some of the areas that, frankly, I don't understand why they happened, right? And when I ask this fulfillment partner, you just get a shoulder shrug, So all I can do is move on and learn from that, and try to fix things going forward. If after all this you're still, hey, I'm never gonna back any of your products again, I understand. It's your money. Our money is hard earned. It's with inflation and the way things are right now. It's obviously difficult to spend money on, and board games are a luxury item. So, it is my responsibility to give you value for what you spend. Now, what I hope is once you guys do get your game, you don't let the delivery timeline of what you get sent really, overshadow what the product is, because the game's amazing. It's amazing, right? All the products are amazing. We put our heart and soul into those. And, we really make games for gamers because we're gamers. And we, even on Mad Kala and the new projects that I'm working on, I'm constantly talking to the team about, how do we deliver the best experience, gameplay, components, art, world building, price, all of it. I try to factor in everything. And, owning a business is a bit of trial and error. There are things that we have to do, that we have to try, and then we either succeed or we fail, or fall short. And, this one stings, because I pride myself on making sure that these sort of things don't happen. And it happened. And I had partners that just didn't live up to their end of the bargain, and I'm not going to call them out specifically. I'm not going to call them by name. I'm not going to tell you what they did, because I don't feel like that's super professional. But if I continued to partner with them and I did things the same way, then that is negligence on my part. I just want you to know one of the main reasons I'm making this video was to apologize, and two, to let you know that that's, I'm making changes so that this doesn't happen again. So whether or not you decide to trust me in the future, that's your prerogative. But I did want to, stand before the court here and give you my plea and let you know what happened, right? And that's kind of how things unfolded. And I vowed my best to not let that happen again. Doesn't mean there won't be mistakes in the future. Again, just human, still a small company with a lot to accomplish. But I appreciate, if you've listened this far, I appreciate you. Thank you. And I promise to try to do better. And we'll see you at the next one if you want to give it a look. All right. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon. Happy gaming.